Hey everybody, Casey here, Chick Chat Collective. I have decided to, sorry, my kids were just screaming downstairs. Um, I have decided that I am going to release a podcast every week now. I've had several people ask me, when's the next one coming out? When's the next one coming out? And most of these topics that I am interviewing and talking to people about are topics that I also can relate to, have something personal, in my own life or from my own life to chat about on it. And so that's kind of how it's going to go. We're going to have a week of interviews. So the last one was with Shannon Morris about her journey to becoming alcohol free. And actually her and I had still had so much to talk about. So we are going to definitely do a part two. Because everyone too who listened to that was just so inspired and thought it was awesome. So, this solo episode of mine is going to be talking about that as well, just sort of my journey with alcohol and drinking and where I am at today and all the things. So, right, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Not that I really think there's anything good with alcohol or that comes from it. Um, but I also don't think everyone who, drinks or has a drink like has a problem. So I totally understand that there's a difference there. Um, so that's what this one is going to be about, sort of my journey with drinking and alcohol. So if you listen to the one before with Shane and I, we were talking about our childhood and, we're both from Gainesville, Virginia, which is like Northern Virginia. We grew up, my first drink, I was 14. I was a freshman in college. Yeah, right. A freshman in high school, Stonewall Jackson High School. And I was super excited for just this new chapter in life. And I was on the dance team. I happened to become homecoming princess that year, and my first drink was actually on homecoming night. That's why I brought that up. So I had just moved to a new neighborhood called Sheffield Manor and met some older kids there. Um, and I became friends with the older kids. One of them became my boyfriend. He was like the first, it was like puppy love. And I made friends with a sophomore. Her name's Michelle. I don't know if we're allowed to use last names, so I'm not going to, but her and I became close. And I always have had older people as friends in my life. I have been told many times by many people I'm an old soul. And so I still to this day, all my friends in California are at least, 3 to 5 years older than me. And they're like some of my best, closest friends. I do also have some friends that are my age, obviously, but I, became really close with this girl. She was my neighbor and we went to homecoming, and then my boyfriend was also a neighbor. He like lived across the street, and he was like really a really good kid. He was also a sophomore. Um and I don't know, my girlfriend Michelle, she was like, we were at homecoming and she was friends with these senior guys, and she was like, we're gonna go to this party. Like I was gonna spend the night at her house. We had this whole plan, and then we were sneaking out, and we were sleeping in her basement and sneaking out and going to this party with all these seniors. And somehow my boyfriend at the time found out about this, and he was really upset and he didn't want me to go. And he was like begging me not to go. And I was like, I really wanted to go. My friend made it seem like it was so much fun. And so her and I, went and slept over at her house, and then we left and went to, I don't even know where the heck this was. My first drink was a White Russian with all these older kids. I was like the youngest one there. Brand new freshman in high school, partying with like all these older kids and thought I was such hot shit, like homecoming princess and dance team and blah, blah, blah. And drank way too much. I don't even remember how many White Russians I had that night, but I'll tell you what, I've never had a White Russian since. I've never had another one again. And it's been a long time. I'm 37 now. Never once have I wanted another White Russian. I think I got alcohol poisoning, if I'm being completely honest. I don't really remember much of the night except for being and feeling so super sick and I think I blacked out because I don't really remember being able to like move or open my eyes really. And I just remember like all of them talking about it, like being like, she like cannot have any more, Michelle, we need to get her home, like we need to make sure she's okay. So like honestly, thank God nothing bad happened. Like, thank God they were decent enough kids at the time to like not take advantage of me or do anything horrible to me, and my friend was there. So they took us home. I don't remember to her house. I don't remember any of that. But I woke up the next morning and had to go home to my house hungover, but right, like I'm 14, so like not actually hungover. I don't feel like you really get hungover until you're like older because you're just more tired and like your body can't bounce back as quickly. Um, but I walk home and my mom like had already known everything that happened. She's like testing me, right? And questioning me, and I'm lying. I'm just like, we just spent the night at her house, blah, blah, blah. And in my head, I'm sure I'm just like, can you shut up and like let me go to sleep? But then she like broke the news that she knew. And of course, I love my mom, but she like lied to me and she was like, your school somehow found out and you're getting kicked off the dance team and you're not going to be there, taking away your crown and your sash, right? Like homecoming had already happened. So like whatever. But that none of that was true. I found out years later that it was actually my boyfriend, snitch, who told my mom everything because he was like pissed. And anyways, long story longer, as a girl I know would say, I didn't drink anymore for a while after that. I didn't want to. Number one, like I said, I was dancing. So I actually was on the dance team, but then I also danced at Stage Door. Shout out to Stage Door Dance Studio in Manassas, Virginia. Like all the time. And it just, that first experience was so freaking terrible that I was like, I don't want to do that again. So I didn't for like the whole rest of my freshman year. And then sophomore year comes around, you start like going to more parties and whatever. It was just a very normal thing for the kids in my town and surrounding towns to like get together and party in basements or have bonfires, and people were drinking and there were kegs. And a lot of the times the parents knew about it too. My mom did not condone it or know about it, but a lot of them were cool with it. The whole thing was like, well, I'd rather you be drinking here than be drinking somewhere else. And it's like, okay. I mean, I guess I kind of get that mentality, but also seems super irresponsible now that I'm a parent myself and looking back at like my childhood, and all the things that were going on. I mean, we were in high school. So there's that. But yeah, then I would like drink here or there. I had like a few more boyfriends in high school. Once I got to my senior year, my boyfriend was older than me. He had already graduated. And him and his friends, I liked hanging out with them. So we would drink with them. And then I went to college and I went to Radford University, which if anyone knows Radford, it's known for being a party school. But that's also where I met Tyler, who is my fiance now. So I love Radford to death, but there is something to do drinking wise every single night of the week. There is not a single night, at least when I went there in 2004, that there is not something going on. Whether it's like 40 Tuesdays where they tape 40s to your hands, or welfare Wednesdays where drinks are $1, or whatever the heck. There's always a name for something and there's always a place to go drinking at. And so that's what we did. And me and some of my best college friends, shout out to the PPH4. I'm not going to tell anyone what that means because it's embarrassing now. But it is me, Brittany, Evan, and Jonay. We thought we were so cool and we became little sisters to a fraternity. So that just gives you an idea of how much we were drinking on the regular. Crazy. And I literally only lasted at Radford till halfway through my sophomore year. And I was like, all I'm doing, I was on the dance team there too, literally got kicked off after my first semester of freshman year because my grades were so bad because I never went to class and I took out student loans. No one helped me pay for college. So I was paying for all of this on my own. And all I did was drink at night and smoke weed during the day. I got freaking overweight and just unhealthy. So that didn't last that long. I woke up after my first semester sophomore year and was like, why am I spending so much money to do this? Like I can party and live at home and not have to pay for college. And like, I'm not going anyways to class. So what am I doing? So I left. And shortly after that, I moved to Southern California. I moved to San Diego. My dad was out there and I just wanted to change. So moved out there. Shortly after living out there, I met my future ex-husband and I just was already such in this drinking mentality. It was like what my friends and I all did. Like my girlfriend's boyfriend was a 28. We were like 18 or 19. No, I think at that time we were 20. And she had like a 28-year-old boyfriend who was a bartender in Reston Town Center. So we would go there, and this is when you could like smoke in the bar. So we'd think we were so cool, like 20 years old, ordering martinis and stuff and Grand Marnier shots. That was her favorite thing. Blech! I can't do shots. I've never been able to do shots. Hate them. Always will hate them. But she loved them. And we just thought we were hot shit. And that's what we did. And then I moved to Southern California, like I said, and it just, I met my future ex-husband. I did not have to work. And then my girlfriend, actually, Brittany, moved out to LA. She lived with us for a while. And I mean, pounding bottles of wine, like very regularly. And it just was not a good place. I basically spent my 20s. I mean, I would take breaks and stuff, but I basically spent my 20s like super drunk a lot and then feeling super hungover. The hangovers just got worse and worse and worse as I got older. And I mean, to the point where I would not get out of bed all day the next day. And I didn't have to. I didn't have anywhere to go. Everything was taken care of for me. And I just wouldn't get out of bed. I'd sit in bed and watch Friends all day and eat really unhealthy food. And sometimes take a Xanax because like the anxiety and the guilt and the shame was so much that I couldn't even handle it. Like I thought I was going to have a panic attack, or I thought I was going to like have a full-blown breakdown, or and I was just like disgusted with myself. Like I would call people at 2 or 3 in the morning because I never ever wanted to drink alone. I always wanted someone there with me, right? So like me and my girlfriends would FaceTime, but then even at some point they have to go to bed. I mean, I would stay up sometimes like with my girlfriends, I would stay up till like 5 or 6 in the morning drinking, and then we would just sleep all day the next day and get up and do it all again. But it was just so unhealthy. And my family does have a history of alcoholism. Both of my grandfathers were alcoholics, even though my grandfather on my dad's side, I think he quit drinking like around the time I was born. So I never knew him that way. And then, but my parents never drank. Like my mom or my dad were never heavy drinkers. I never really saw either one of them drinking at all. And it's not like I was exposed to a lot of drinking as a kid or anything like that. So I think it really was just like my environment and also how I felt on the inside. Like, I think alcohol, of course, when you're drunk, it like numbs your feelings. And as I was saying in the episode with Shannon, it dumbs you down. At least me, it dumbs me down like no other. Like, I quit smoking weed after college because instead of it making me like giggle and laugh all day and eat 5,000 double cheeseburgers from McDonald's, when I moved to LA, it actually ended up giving me hardcore anxiety and panic attacks. And I was like, okay, I'm just not going to do this anymore because I don't enjoy it. And that was super easy for me to just be like, don't want to do it anymore. I don't like this feeling, so I don't want to do it. I don't know why it took me so long to do that with drinking. Like, I hated the hangover feeling. I freaking hated it so much and was always so mad at myself. Right? It's like, it's not just the way that you feel physically, which for me is like death because I would smoke cigarettes with it, which does not help, but mentally and emotionally, like I did not like myself. Um, so there's all of that too, but that's why I feel like, during my 20s, like I said, I just kind of wasted them. And looking back now, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I could get all of that time back, like I have no time anymore, right? Like my time is I have 3 kids and a business and now this podcast, which I love, but I have no extra time at all. And I'm like, if I would have just focused my energy into positive things in my 20s, right? Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Like, I can't go back in time, but man, what a time waste and energy suck that it is. And it was really just me not having a purpose, not being completely happy, I think, with myself and within my marriage. And so, I do feel bad for my ex-husband too. Like, as much as he was wrong in what he did to me at the end of our marriage, I was not the best wife. I mean, who would want to be married to someone who was freaking drunk 2 or 3 times a week and then completely hungover? I mean, it wasn't like that the whole time, but it was a lot. And I certainly would not put up with that. Like, there's no way. Um, and he did for a really long time. But then, like I said, I turned 30. I was really wanting to have a baby. Um, and none of that was working. So we go to the doctors and they're like, well, your egg count is low and blah, blah, blah. Smoking can cause this. And I was like, okay, well, I'm quitting drinking because that's the only way that I won't smoke cigarettes. And the only time I did smoke cigarettes was when I was drinking. I never wanted them otherwise. So it was crazy because something I had done, which I was like, I'll never be able to not drink. Like, I thought it was crazy people talking about not drinking and like, what, you're lame or whatever. And but it was like in that moment when the doctor said that, in my mind, it was just like, well, then you need to quit drinking because you need to quit smoking because you need eggs to have a baby. And that's all it took. And I literally just quit and quit for like a year. And then when I kind of like took that first sip again, it wasn't anything special. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I've missed this so much. Like, I wasn't craving it. I wasn't thinking about it all the time. And it was like after that I think my relationship with it just changed. I think that I realized, okay, I certainly do not need this at all in my life. And it never really did anything positive for me. So where I'm at now with it, I'm 3 kids in. But I am not like an all or nothing person. I am not that way at all in my life, right? Like, I am not like, I want to like find and build my forever home because that's where I'm going to live forever, right? Like, yes, I want to like build my dream house, but guess what? If I don't like it or don't want to be there in 5 years or all my kids go somewhere else, like, I'm not going to feel like I'm stuck in that house. I'm not like committing myself to forever to anything except for my family and my future husband. Like, that for me, that's the only permanent thing in my life. Say like with having kids, it's not like I can't have kids anymore. And that's something that we'll get into at a future thing. But before I knew that, I wasn't like, I'll never have any more kids. right? Because I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to feel in a year or 2 years from now. And so I'm like that with drinking too. I hardly ever drink anymore, but Tyler and I just went out for his birthday on May 25th, and I had an espresso martini, like at this beautiful rooftop restaurant because I wanted one. It was delicious. I had one and I was done. And that's how my relationship is now. It used to be I'm opening this bottle of wine and I'm drinking the whole thing, and then I'm going to move on to number two and I'm smoking this pack of cigarettes. Like, seriously, that's just how it was. There was no just one glass of wine, just two glasses of wine, just one bottle of wine. It was like you're going hard, even if it is right on your back patio by yourself, FaceTiming your friends. Excuse me. So just super unhealthy. It was a super unhealthy relationship that I had with alcohol. And, now it is, if I want to drink, I'm going to have one, right? I'm not going to have six, but if I feel like, hey, it's Friday night and I haven't seen Tyler all week because we've both been slammed and he wants a freaking beer and I want a glass of rosé and we want to talk and hang out after the kids go to sleep, that's what we're going to do. I don't know, something has switched. And I think when you go a really long time without something that you think that you can't go a really long time without, then you realize that of course you can. You are smarter and stronger than this thing that you think that you need. Then I don't know, it's just like the grasp that it has on you, or maybe even the addiction. Maybe it has something to do with addiction, right? I'm not a scientist. I don't know how that works, but maybe once it's out of your system for a long enough time, just that alone is enough for you to not crave it anymore. I mean, I used to crave my wine nights and get so excited for my wine nights. Like I would look so forward to them. And that's just not how it is anymore, right? I look really forward to like getting in my bed and trying to go to sleep and getting sleep. But it's not, and everything of my life looked amazing, right? Like if you knew me through Facebook, I was living in LA, living my best life out there, then living in Austin, and then living in Europe, like flying everywhere all around the world. And it looked just like I had my life together. I had my shit together. I don't know if anyone would have guessed, like, dang, she's probably freaking drinking her face off like 3 to 4 nights a week and not being a productive human being at all. And so also just know that, guys, too, when you're looking at things, and not people, just because it looks like they have it all together and they're posting what they want you to see does not mean that that is reality. And it certainly wasn't my reality. And it got so bad, like I would have stomach issues. Like I used to think that I had IBS, and if I would go out to eat, I was like scared to go out to eat because I would need to know where the bathroom was, like right when we got in the restaurant. And then I would always have to like try and make myself go to the bathroom after eating or after meals because I wouldn't want to get in the car and be stuck and have to go to the bathroom. I mean, this alcohol like totally screwed me up so many times. And like twice I passed out in a hot tub from drinking too much. And like people who were in there with me had to like pull me out of it so I didn't drown, like scary, scary stuff. One time I think I was at my friend's house, her parents' house in Herndon, and my ex-husband was there with us. And I mean, her and we were just crazy and stayed up all night drinking. And then we go to bed, and like I passed out, and apparently I was starting to puke in my sleep. And thank God he was there. He like lifted me up and freaking put my head over and let me not choke on my own throw up. But like, that is a real thing. It is a real thing. People have died that way. We've heard of celebrities who have died that way. And that just shows you the level of like drunk that I was getting. I mean, it was like blacked out status, like Shannon said. It was just like and the blackouts they get more and more often. Like they happen more and more often, I think, maybe the more that you drink. I'm not sure. But it wasn't good. And I would always just feel disgusted with myself. I don't know why it took me so long. I don't know why I just didn't quit. I guess I needed something that I wanted really bad, which was a baby, to make me just wake up and come out of it. But I did. And basically that's what this whole podcast is about, is I basically was as bad as it could get, guys. I mean, I wasn't like partying at the bars with like random people and, doing anything like that, because I was in a relationship the whole time, and then I was married, but I was putting my ex-husband through like legit hell and putting my body, I don't know how many years I took off my life by doing that for over a decade. And all my loved ones. Like one time I had to cancel Mother's Day with my stepmom and my dad when we were in California from Texas, because me and my best friend got way too drunk the night before at her apartment in Manhattan Beach, and I couldn't do it. I was supposed to meet them at a pier. I had reservations, and I had to call them and cancel, and they had to come to our hotel room and hang out while I was in bed, telling them how sorry I was and how terrible I felt, and it was just awful. Like it was an awful feeling. And I felt like I was disappointing everybody because I knew I was capable of so much more. Um, and it's just a weird thing, drinking in our culture. Like I lived in Europe for a year, and they let their kids start drinking early, like 14, 15, 16. But the way they do it is they like let them have a glass of wine at dinner, or like let them have a beer at dinner. They sort of introduce it to them lightly, and then they're able to not just binge drink or think that it's like a cool thing to do and then want to do it every time they go out or go somewhere. It's more of like the family introduces it at a young age, and they set an example of like what is appropriate with drinking and what is not, and the kids just kind of see it from a much healthier perspective, than a bunch of idiot teenagers getting way too drunk and making stupid decisions, and then that just kind of carrying on into your life. I mean, it's crazy how many years will go by, and then you wake up and you're like, holy crap, like I was definitely drunk more of those nights than not for that long of a time. So it's one of my biggest regrets, obviously, is drinking like that and drinking so much. I do think that I just wasn't happy. I was unhappy. I was unfulfilled. That was my own fault. And that was my favorite way of sort of filling the void or masking that or covering it up. Because I liked the feeling. Like, do not get me wrong. I loved that feeling when I was like freaking past my point and drunk and giggly and happy and like just, super overconfident, like a complete dumbass. I'm sure I sounded like such a dumbass and sometimes probably such a biatch, and I'm just glad that I broke out of it and have learned from it, right? Like I will be so open with my kids about alcohol and drinking, and just try to do it way better than, kind of how I got into all of that. So that's all I have on that topic for now. If I think of anything else, I will do another one. But I just wanted to let everybody know, kind of like Shane and I were saying, if it's been on your heart or you've been thinking like, hey, I want to just give this a break. And it doesn't have to be alcohol, right? It can be anything that you feel that has a hold on you, right? Eating too much, drinking too much, smoking weed, cocaine, like whatever your drug of choice is, cigarettes, dip, anything, a vape, like anything that is not healthy, that you even if you are addicted to exercise, even that can be like dangerous. So anything like that, if you're feeling like I need to give this a break, I'm here to tell you that you totally can. You 100% can. You just need to make the decision in your head that I want to do this and I want to see how I feel after 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And just make the decision and then just do it. That's all you have to do. I know it sounds like, oh, okay, that's all you have to do, but it really is. And I'm telling you, if someone told you tomorrow, if some, doctor or whoever you respect and trust told you tomorrow that if you don't stop doing this one thing that you're doing, you will be dead in 30 days, I guarantee you would stop immediately. There would be like no questions in your head. So maybe think of it like that. Give yourself a talk like that. Anyways, I thank you guys all for listening. My kids are downstairs screaming. Sorry if you can hear them. And I will catch y'all on the flip side.